Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TheCore 5.0. Pretty much every time StarCraft has one of these huge balance patches, we go through and try to make things a little bit more efficient, a little bit more easier to learn, and this is kind of a low production quality. We're just going to kind of hang out and talk about hotkeys here. I'd really like to get a full scripted, like very well produced video about the core and all that stuff, but unfortunately I don't have tons of time right now. What I do have time for is to hang out with you and just kind of talk about the things that we've done. So I think starting off, if you're not familiar with the Core 4.0, don't worry about it. I'm going to be referring to it a lot because we're going to talk about, things that are changing from one step to another. But a lot of the logic of the layout should sort of unfold as we're talking about this, which should help you kind of appreciate what's going on and the ideas, what we're trying to do here, and maybe help you learn a little bit faster. So to begin with, we're going to talk about these new little areas up here. We call them zones. What happened in the beginning of the core is that we got this really specific system of ergonomic motion for the hand. It was all broken down into points, and we sort of I see we as in me and Foxy Mayhem. Foxy Mayhem is the person who co-founded the core, basically. Him and I got together. We were rival hotkey layout makers, and we started talking about stuff, and eventually we decided to work together and build the core. So we developed this whole really complex system to rank keys by how fast they are to press. And over the years, we've been kind of collecting data and working on the core for about 6 years now. Over the years, we've noticed that it's hard to be this specific because people's hands are very different. And we always knew that, right? We always knew people's hands were very different. But we're kind of optimistic about our measurements and saying, yeah, this is going to be good for most people. Like H is definitely going to be better than V for most people, on the left side, H and M for the right side, for example. But I've basically become a lot less confident in that. And by freeing up this very sort of stringent, this key has to be, key has to be better than this key, we can do a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be getting into. So this change in philosophy to Zone 1 is the home key, so those are your 4 keys. Zone 2 is just the keys that are 1 key away. They're all touching the home keys, right? So you only have to move 1 key distance or half a key distance, depending on how you do the math. Nope, just 1. That's why you don't do math on stream. On screaming either, definitely don't. And then we have 2 keys away. We basically want to just avoid Zone 3. Zone 3 sucks. You got your hold position over here, you got your patrol, you got halt, you got this kind of, these are the rejects, it's the Ultralisk, sorry, it's a huge command card. Someone's going to get pushed out there, So those are our zones. And that's kind of how things are changing as far as measurement goes. And what this allows us to do is set up all kinds of synergies. So if you're into business lingo and all that kind of stuff, synergies are abound. So first we're going to talk about toggle pairs. And the toggle pair is QH or open bracket H. Whoa, let's not break the hotkey layout, eh? And so we have load unload is a toggle pair, right? You kind of go back and forth. Weapons free and hold fire, release and hold fire, right? We try to line these things up, burrow and unburrow. One of the big changes for 5.0 is that burrow and unburrow got separated onto separate keys for all units and not just the lurker. But we do have lurker unburrow, lurker burrow. Those are different. You might not know that. That's one of the funny little hotkey things that happen. And here we have in yellow, right? So I kind of color-coded this about, it's a little messy, but we're going to explain it. The yellow is sort of transformers, right? You get siege, unsiege, lower, raise the supply depot. It's another toggle pair over here. And we have creep, stop creep. And it's just a lot of lining stuff up. So we can see like creep on the queen is the same as creep on the overlord. And we try to do little things like that all over the place. We have the morph key. This is going to be on S. That's in purple, right? So banelings, lurkers. Temporary units are all here as well. Infested Terrans are there. And then we have the second morph, drop lords. I think there's one other, some co-op units that have double morphs, and we put them on this key secondarily. And then morphing buildings as well. So lair, hive, morphing into lurker den, for example, same thing. You want to have your workers in the same key, obviously. I actually don't think that's the case in the regular hotkeys. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. It's such a it's so nice to have your workers in the same key. Select larva, we already had that from before. Q, we got spellcasters over here, right? So we got Infestor, Mothership, Queen, Raven, High Templar. Not all of them, but we managed to get a fair amount of them. And the other thing that we try to do is Ghost Academy and Ghost are on the same key, right? So we have a little bit of synergy going on over here. We have all the upgrade structures on 2 or dash minus, depending on if you're left to right-handed. We put the supplies all together. So that includes Overlords. And this was a little tricky stack because we have the Overlord, which is a dropship. So we want all the dropships to be on the same key, but we also want the supplies to be there. And then we also want supply drop to be there as well. So it was a fun little puzzle. And it's mostly figured out. Basic stuff what we've had in the core before, very similar. Gas gathering structures are just gas gathering structures. You don't have to make them different keys, right? Cybernetics core, Fleet Beacon Fusion core, right? These are all flying type activities. The Spire is much more Stargate, Starport related, right? It's that first thing you build. We threw the Hydralisk Den over here. I feel like this is kind of a nice little appropriate place, as these are a little bit more high tech. Generally speaking, you're going to go for a ground based or an air based, tier 2 a lot of the times. And none of these really were zone 1 approved keys. It's like Ultra Cavern, please. How many games you're going to get to that? Oh, we also have, and this is another synergy that's fun. This is the sneaky synergy. So we have Lurkers, Dark Shrine, Dark Templar on the same key. But yeah, so we have attacks. All the attacks and all the defenses are the same. Even like Ultralisk plating over here. Ultralisk speed. I actually haven't put it in the documents. We're going to have to throw that in there. Just put a little note for us. Ultra speed. I don't know what it's actually called. Is going to be on W or P, depending. And that is speed related, right? So we have Stimpack, which is speed related. Charge, which is speed related. Gravitic boosters. I didn't color code this particular one. But yeah, it's a cloaking field, and researching cloak is always G, and that's fine, and that's it, right? So it's a relatively simple setup we have going on here. We changed things around so they lined up a little bit more, and we figured out that if we can open up for creativity a little bit, then things will be quite nice when we're trying to do stuff for co-op. Co-op is available. We don't have it on the spreadsheet. It's just in the file. I didn't want to write out all those co-op keys because there's so many of them, and it's been incredibly difficult to get them all bound properly. It's been... it seems like a simple thing. You're like, oh yeah, everything's totally fine. And then like the fundamental way that the hotkey system's set up is just like, no, we're going to ruin your day. So that's been happening for a week, but I think we're done now. Okay. Another really cool development over here, top bar powers. I did not know you could use control with a top bar power. You can, because it's a universal key. And I wasn't thinking about that. I was like, man, where are we going to fit these top bar powers? And we can layer them. This has changed my co-op life. It's like so easy, just control 2, control Q. It's awesome. The one thing I'll say while we're over here is I use the Overwolf build order advisor, and it's like Alt Q or Control Q rather is the I think hardbound hotkey for that. I haven't messed around in there, so you might want to change that out if you use that program or other programs that use that. Over to suggested control groups. We're moving this around. This is change. This is new stuff. So I've been experimenting and having a lot of conversations with people in the core Discord server about how, what a good way to set up the control groups is. And I think we have this newer edition is a bit better. It's a bit more flexible. It's going to allow you to sort of customize a little bit more. And so we have the main army. That's normal. And then we have harass 1. And so I think one of the first most essential and difficult parts about a control group use is keeping track of 2 things at the same time, right? Control groups allow you to do that, and they present that problem of, okay, I have to remember that this control group's over here, this control group's over here. So by having the first two locations that you're going to be hanging out as far as control groups go, right on the home keys, you should be able to very, very easily just say, I have this force over here, and they're doing some harassment, and I have my main army over here, and it's doing its thing. And that's kind of I think, a really great way to start as far as branching out from that one control group syndrome. Then we have some army micro groups, and this is defined as units you want to move with the army, but micro separately. Spellcasters, siege tanks. If you have a bioforce with marines and marauders, sometimes it's nice to have the marines off to a different control groups. That way the banelings come in, they can pull back very easily. You don't have to control click under pressure. Different things like that, but just open up your mind and think about different ways that you could do that. One of the small customization options here that I suggest is that you can change these control groups, or whatever control groups you want to use Army Micro for, change them to normal add instead of add steal. And so what you can do is you're using your army and you have it, let's say you're right-handed, you have your army on O, and it's made of Marines and Marauders and some medevacs. That's great. And you want to have that Marine group that we talked about before. And so if you add it to L before the fight, or when you move out with your army, then you won't have to, you'll avoid the need to continually add all your Marines to two control groups every time they come out, which is a pain. But by using the normal add for this and this, you're going to get a pretty cool kind of effect that was recently found out basically by various people in the core. I think Probe was one of the first people. If you know who Probe is, he's great. He's one of the first people to start experimenting with that. So definitely think about a normal add on these two control groups. And the other thing I want to mention here, the reason why this is highlighted, is that it's really important. Maybe that's a bit too much. Let's just say it's important to have your town hall and upgrades on 3 or 0. This is because the regular abilities are optimized around that. So you'll notice, let's get over here. So this is a bit weird, right? So we have the command center over here, and we're like skipping some really good keys. And you're like, why would you do that? These are supposed to be the best keys. What's going on? The assumption is that you're going to press 3 first, or you're going to press, what would that be? 0 first. So we've analyzed these keys based on the assumption that you're pressing 3 first. And so 2 is actually a really nice key if you've already pressed 3 first, or 9 if 0, or dash if 0. And so you press 9, you press 0 and then dash, right? 0 for your hatchery, and then you hold dash and you make a bunch of drones, and it's beautiful. It's very easy, it's very comfortable and nice, and that kind of allows for some space to open up. It makes sure that we don't get into trouble with these two non-rapid fire keys. It's actually quite tricky. I won't go into too much of the details, but they can cause a lot of problems. Mule's got to be rapid fire, right? But Chrono can't be rapid fire. Otherwise, you accidentally just burn all your Chrono boosts for no reason. Things like that. We have to watch out for that stuff. But that's why this is highlighted. Definitely strongly suggest putting it on 3 or 0, depending on if you're right or left-handed. And that is it. Thank you all for coming along with me on this ride of just a really impromptu kind of discussion about the Core 5.0. If you want to download it, you can just come over here like this, and then you'll be taken to the folder. This is where everything happens. You have little pictures here to help you out. There's a learning program if you want to use some deliberate practice. The handbook kind of goes over all the stuff that I was talking about in this video and like a little bit more. The spreadsheet is what we were looking at. And yeah, so that's about it. The files are over here. You just pick whatever keyboard you have. Say you're in Portugal and you pick this, and then you pick your left and your right and things like that. But yeah, so I think we've gone long enough. My name is JaKaTaK, and as always, thanks for watching. If you have an idea for a video you'd like me to do, please leave it with any questions, comments, criticisms, concerns, or anything beginning with letter C in the comment section below, and I'll see you again soon.